I have this knife.
Why do you have a knife?
Stop.
Are you kidding me?
And now I bring you back to life. So
That's your intro?
So you can come back and do more movies. That's pretty much... That's
Not even like a what's your favorite scary movie?
No, I want to stab.
Oh my gosh. Hi guys, welcome back to the Charming Analysis Podcast and welcome to the start of Halloween Spectacular 2024. Oh my gosh.
And we already started out with 7 movies in a row.
Well, and we're starting this year with six. We're starting this year with a bang.
Yeah, 6 movies.
So yeah, for the Halloween Spectacular this year. This is a series I've been wanting to watch for a long time, and I never got around to it until I talked to Jay about it, and I'm like, okay, let's fucking do it.
I just wanted to talk about it because it was relevant.
It's a mix of a bunch of things.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, welcome back to the Charming Analysis Podcast. I'm Mari.
I'm Jay.
And for the start of our Halloween Spectacular for 2024, we're going to be talking about the Scream franchise. This is a series I've always wanted to watch, and I just never got around to it. And also, I never got into scary movies before I met Jay, so...
I wonder if Wes Craven movies are this dumb.
I don't know. But yeah, so...
I know he also did Nightmare on Elm Street, which I also can't wait to binge with you, because...
Yeah. We'll get there, but...
Yeah.
We're doing one franchise at a time.
I don't know if he directed those. I don't know.
But anyway, like I said, we're talking about the Scream franchise. So here's the first thing I'm going to mention. So, this is a franchise video because we decided to
watched all 6 of them.
Yeah, all 6 of them. So,
why did you want to do this, like, in the first place? Like, what
because
got you?
Ever since I started watching scary movies with you, I kind of was like, well, let's do like a classic that we haven't done.
Let's do a slasher film.
Because I thought it'd be interesting. And also, it honestly was interesting. I'm surprised I never got into these movies before.
You didn't pick Friday the 13th. You didn't pick Halloween. You didn't pick Freddy Krueger. You didn't pick fuck, who else? Who else is a murderer? Murders. Who murders?
I don't fucking know.
Murders.
Look.
You picked Scream. You get Ghostface.
Okay, look.
You think there's just gonna be one called Ghostface?
I feel like they probably would eventually at this point.
Maybe that'll be the next movie, Ghostface.
Well, I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. But anyway, so since I've been watching scary movies with Jay, and a lot of people have always told me that, oh, you should go watch Scream. Oh, you should go watch Scream. And I was always kind of nervous about it. And then I was like, fuck it. I'm going to watch Scream then. But I wanted to watch with my bean because I don't like watching movies by myself when it's scary. But yeah, so for those who don't know, Scream is basically a franchise about a killer who dons the mask of Ghostface and basically kills everybody around him until there's only a few survivors left, and then he ends up dying.
Yes, and that's every movie,
and
it's all meta of the plot of a scary movie, and it's like, okay.
Basically, that's the premise or the basic plot point of the franchise in and of itself. But this franchise has 6 movies, so we're gonna go over them as a whole, and we're also going to go over them each individually. But as a whole, basically, you got a group of friends, someone ends up getting killed at the beginning, and then it's up to the group of friends to figure out who the killer is, and as they're trying to figure out, a lot of them keep getting eliminated, and then eventually it's down to at least, give or take, maybe 4 people, and then once they figure out who the killer is, they end up stopping them, and then basically, at least 2 to 3 people are left once they figure out who the killer is. is basically the gist of how these movies work.
So
That's the basic plot point. So
I guess we can start with the first three because that's all together, I guess.
Okay, so yeah. So basically, in this franchise, currently there are 6 movies. You have Scream, which came out in 1996, Scream 2, 97, Scream 3 came out in 2000, and those 3 kind of go together as a whole with the main cast.
Yeah.
Then you got Scream 4, which came out in 2011, and then we got Scream 2022. I'm going to call the 5th one Scream 2022 because it's not Scream 5. I don't know why the fuck they don't include a 5.
This is a new cast.
But yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, for the sake of the 5th one, I'm just going to call it Scream 2022. And then Scream 6 came out last year. So, and there is a 7th one being currently made. We don't know when it's coming out.
Questions. Does Scream 4 have anything to do with 5 and 6?
I don't think so, but we'll get to that.
The only outlier. Okay.
We'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna basically go over the franchise as a whole, go over each movie, and then we'll rate each movie separately from best to worst with scores, and we'll rate the franchise as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've done with Final Destination before, because that's the last franchise video I think we did for a Halloween one.
Mm-hmm.
So, to us, if it's more than 3 movies, it's technically a franchise. So, 3 movies is basically a trilogy.
Yeah.
So, franchises to us are more than 4 movies. Or 3 or more movies.
Alright, let's get to the first.
Alright. So now you guys know the rules. Let's get started. So, first Scream came out in 1996. Basically, it starred Sydney and the rest of the ensemble, along with her childhood friend Dewey and Gail, who was a reporter, and a bunch of their other high school friends.
Yeah.
So
and, a murderer comes and is just killing teenagers
left and right,
and stuff, and just based on horror tropes, I guess you could say. I will say, this movie, I never seen Scream. I knew of it, Public Zeitgeist, of course, but never seen it beforehand. So, first time watching any of these movies. And even with the first one, felt very nostalgic to me. Maybe because I miss
widescreen.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But it was just nostalgic to me. Even if, this movie I didn't particularly see. I know the types of movie that this is. Around, early 90s. The whole 90s period is just very nostalgic to me, even though I'm a 2000s kid. But I grew up with a lot of, 90s memorabilia and stuff like that. So it's just kind of very nostalgic to me to see. Also, they did the whole fucking... I think this is the only movie that does the whole, let's make it kind of a parody of itself and actually make it work. Normally, I'm annoyed by these movies
but they made it unique
in any fucking any genre at all. That's why I don't really like watching meta shit. It's just I rather try and care about stuff without it getting too meta, because at that point I'm just well, why should I treat the characters like they're real characters then? They're just meta props at this point. But I don't know. I cared because at least they gave me something to work with. At least at least in all honesty, it was just about a girl who was getting gaslit, basically.
In a sense,
kind of, yeah, because her mom is dead, and people are suspicious of her, or she's suspicious of everyone else, targeting her
mom and stuff like that,
her and her group of friends,
and her mom,
and people are well, who's the killer in the town, and reporters harassing her and everything, and just that whole thing I was very interested in, so I didn't really care when the meta shit came. And plus it only came when, like, the killer was around, I guess. Like, you know, no spoilers or anything, but, like, just came when those characters were around, when the killer was intimidating them and stuff like that. So it didn't bug me, the fact that it, like, turned, like, it was kind of meta-ish, you know, because it was just, you know, it had a story to it, so cool. I liked that. I liked that it didn't annoy me that much on that front. I don't know. I put it as like a contender for possibly, like, you know, movies like what do you call that? Like 8 out of 10 movies. I put it as a contender on that for, like, movies I normally put 8 or higher on above there, because I'm just like, damn, I'm just happy that I have a movie that is meta and that I can finally fucking recommend to people. Like, this is one of the few. I like it. Please just like,
don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up. I don't think a franchise fucked it up, but at this point it's just like, man, it gets pretty fucking annoying sometimes. I'm just like, I maybe because, like, I liked the implication of, like, the psychology of this slasher more than other slashers.
Yeah, because
the more surreal it is, the more I'm just like, okay, I can get into this a whole lot more, you know. And I don't know. It's just it's interesting. It was interesting because
it was pretty good though. Like the very first one, I think
the victim blaming was very interesting. That was like a weird kind of psych tangent. I was just like, damn.
Also, fun fact,
that kind of, like, you know, helped the movie out a little bit.
Also, fun fact, the guy that played Shaggy in one of the live action Scooby-Doo's is in this movie, which. That's the first thing I recognized. I was like, "Oh my gosh, is that Shaggy?" I don't even
know his name.
I forgot his name.
Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard? Yes. There you go.
That's his name.
But yeah, the first Scream movie I do think is is like a very good one. It's basically the start of the franchise, and
it's not your favorite for some odd fucking reason.
It honestly is one of my favorites. I think it's actually my favorite so far.
Okay.
But I'll get into my favorites once we get through it. This is why
Mari is more kind of movies than me. Because they like a lot of campy stuff. I could like it too, to a certain degree.
Does this count as campy to you?
Yes. This whole Scream franchise is campy. It is. It really is. This is like camp. This is like early camp.
Early camp.
Although I'm sure, like, early 70s is probably the earliest camp.
Yeah. Like, but then again, this came out like in the late 90s, so. But yeah. So, one of the things that I seem to notice with this movie is, like, Sydney gets so gaslit. So bad.
In this franchise,
okay, first off, she gets gaslit so much. Personally, I think in the first movie more than the others. But still, she gets gaslit quite a bit over the stupidest fucking shit. This girl needs fucking therapy. That's the first thing I will say. She needs fucking therapy.
It's not played off as, like, the most serious of things. I could go into the whole psychology of Sydney, last name eludes me. I can go over the psychology of, like, her character throughout these movies per se, of, like, her just shutting herself off eventually. But I don't want to, because I think that's the only interesting arc that I found throughout this whole entire thing.
It's just Sydney in general.
I didn't give a shit about Gail
or Dewey.
Surprisingly,
I thought you would
give a shit.
I thought you would at least give a shit a little bit about Dewey.
No,
I can understand.
Gail's a dick and Dewey's a cop. I don't give a shit about
also,
that.
something I also noticed throughout this franchise in general. I'll give fun facts while we're talking about stuff because some stuff I do find interesting about it. Gale has gotten hit 3 times in the face. 2 by Sydney and 1 by Tara.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was gonna. That was one thing I thought was gonna be a running gag through the entire thing.
That
like
funny.
Gale was gonna be punched in the face every time. First movie was like,
wait, did Gale die?
Yes, she died.
Oh, no more. They're all dead.
No.
Goodbye. Well, Sydney.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Sydney's gone.
We will talk about that when we get to that.
I know, but like, okay, but that was the only thing that was like smiley interesting throughout, like at least the trilogy of these movies, at least for me, because I'm just like that kind of helped me get through it.
Gale getting punched in the face helped you got through it.
Well, kind of, but like I mean, like just Sydney's whole deal about like overcoming her own
insecurities and overcoming like
her own boo-boos, you know,
and overcoming like all her obstacles that she goes through within the course of
just
the franchise.
God damn, I would not fuck with any of this shit.
Sydney's a fucking badass. Okay, stuff about
even
Sydney.
When she like is in away, even when she like moved away, far away, she has a whole security system, everything. She can't even like get. She couldn't even get away from that. So I'm just like, damn.
Right. Okay, do we have anything else to say? Can we stay on track?
Maybe I would just go into a mental institution at that point.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's stay on track with the first one, then we'll get to the second.
I liked the first one. Like, I really liked it. I wish it was more like that. I don't think it tops the first one.
I know, the first one's normally like the best one, but... Yeah. Then again, they keep making sequels. So that has to mean it's somehow good if they keep making sequels.
I mean...
But anyway, do you have anything else to say about the first one before we give our rating for the first one? Because personally for me, the first movie's really good. I feel bad for Sydney that she keeps getting gaslit. She needs fucking therapy. All these fucking characters need therapy. I swear. They just all need to be in a fucking therapy group or something. But yeah, first one's really good. The suspense is good. Overall, I really don't have any complaints with the first movie. It's really solid, really good. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. That's what I give the first one.
Okay.
Strong contender. What do you give the first one?
I give it an 8.
Give it an 8?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to say before we start the second one?
We're so lazy.
What do you mean we're so lazy?
I'm just like, man, I'm like, whatever I can say about them, and then you say your stuff, and then I say my stuff, and it's all like...
Can we shush?
Word vomit.
We're allowed to word vomit, okay? It's our podcast. We're allowed to word vomit.
Okay, fine.
Anything else to say about the first one?
No.
It's just really good. Do you recommend it?
It's just good. It's just good.
Do you recommend it?
If you're a horror movie fan, you like camp shit, yes.
Same here. But yeah, I don't really have any complaints about the first movie. Overall, it's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're going to get into Scream 2, which came out in 1997. Basically, Sydney is in college and...
dealing with her shit still.
She's in college now. And... basically, the killer followed her to college.
Gail is still a bitch, and Dewey's a coward.
But also, we get to learn a little bit more about, like, Sydney's past, which they briefly touch on in the first movie, but this movie at least kind of talks about it a little bit more.
I will say, though,
apparently...
They rely so much on, like, just random fucking lore bullshit that, like, nothing is ever, brought up ever in the previous movies that is alluded to any of this, and then just dropped like, oh, this happened, this happened.
Okay, well,
this happened. I'm like, this is too much of like.
Okay, can I explain?
Too much.
Can we explain?
This is too much for.
So listen, it's briefly mentioned in the first movie that Sydney's mom basically had a past. Let's just put it in those terms. She's had a past. So the second movie does dive into a little bit about the past, apparently with this guy named Cotton, which, first off, why do you name your fucking child Cotton? Whose idea was that? Whoever did that, what the fuck? Why do you name him that? I need to say that because that pissed me off. Why would you name your kid Cotton? Anyway, he basically had a past with Sydney's mom. He gets framed for Sydney's mom's murder, apparently.
Yeah.
When in reality, it was the first two killers of the first movie that killed Sydney's mom. Basic spoilers. These movies have been out for years. Go watch them if you really don't want to be avoided with spoilers. However, with the later movies, I can kind of understand. I'll probably give a spoiler warning mainly for the last two movies because they came out within the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. Anyway, second movie basically is Sydney going into college. She finds out more about her mom. She finds out the guy that got arrested for her mom's murder, Cotton, is let out of prison. She hates that. She wants him back in prison.
No.
What?
The fuck? He got wrongfully accused.
I was going to get to that. He was wrongfully accused for her mom's murder. And she doesn't really want to deal with him. He wants to reconcile with her, even though she's like nothing to do with him. Mm-hmm. She just wants to live her life. Second thing, she's fucking paranoid as shit. I feel bad that she's so paranoid as shit from dealing with the Ghostface kill the first time. And they basically started making movies, parody movies in a sense, about what happened. So now
that's the whole crux for the entire franchise of going.
After this movie, basically they keep making in-universe parodies of the movie we're watching about Sydney. And this poor girl, first off,
I would sue.
I'm surprised she did
sue for defamation.
And here's the other thing.
She did sue, and then like they were like, "Oh, we'll just make shit up afterwards."
Yeah, but at the same time, still, that shouldn't even been a fucking thing.
I know.
Still, Gail also had something to do with it because she wrote fucking books about it for the rest of the fucking franchise. And then she kept writing books.
I never fucking liked Gail. I never did. Never fucking liked Gail. Gail could go suck a dick for all I give a shit.
Gail, I feel like, has to be liked for an acquired taste. No. I don't personally like her, but I do feel like she does have some moments that kind of redeem her a little bit. No. But still, she's a fucking bitch overall.
No.
You hate Gail.
I don't like Gail. I don't like it. I don't like her. I never liked her. And just like, why you keep coming back? Please.
Here's the other funny thing, and it's been kind of like...
Your arc was over.
And it was kind of hinted for like the first movie, but... Dewey kind of liked Gail. Gail they tried to get with each other. They officially got with each other in the third movie, but it builds up over this movie and stuff. I never really got the appeal of the whole Gail and Dewey thing, but to each their own. Mm-hmm. Poor Sydney has been through fucking shit. Like, that's the one thing I feel bad about when it comes to this. But anyway, basically, Cotton ends up helping Sydney confront the killer, who happens to be the mom and...
You're like, who else?
And one of the frat guys, I believe. It was one of the frat guys. I think that was who he was. It's been a bit. We watched the first two movies before we went out of town.
I don't...
It was basically Billy Loomis's mom.
It was his mom and some guy.
Some guy he knew.
Fuck.
But let's just say it's mostly Nancy that was having the killing spree, honestly. I feel like the other kid just kind of followed along because, ooh, strong mommy. I must have strong mommy.
I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, it was decent. It was a decent little
it was good.
Kitty, you know?
It was good. Not as good as the first one, but...
It's alright. And then, like, afterwards, I'm just like, man, it's just the same movie over and over again. And what is going on?
But yeah, this does improve on the first movie a little bit. Not in terms of quality, but, like, in terms of lore for it, which I think is a good thing.
This is the only one that doesn't follow, like, a specific pattern.
Which is true. This one doesn't follow the pattern and stuff. I don't think they really start following the quote-unquote pattern until the next movie.
Yeah, and then
which is kind of crazy, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, Scream 2, I feel like if you liked the first one, you would probably get a kick out of this one. Mm-hmm. in my opinion, it's good, but not as good as the first one. I do feel like it does improve on the lore. If you did like the lore from the first one, you will get a kick out of that in this one, which I thought was nice. Anyway, for the second movie, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's decent. Not as good as the first one, but if you did like the lore of the first one, and you did like how that ended up, I feel like you would get a kick out of this one. But that's just my opinion. What would you give the second movie?
You know, I was going to give it a higher rating, but I can barely remember, like, much of anything besides the two that we watched recently. I remember it being decent.
Yeah, it was decent. It's not bad, but it's, like, not as good as the first one. I remember it being
decent. So, for that, I'll give it, like... Give it a 6.
You give it a 6?
Yeah.
Would you recommend the second one or just stick to the first one?
I would recommend it. I'm just like, look, if you guys like campy stuff, this probably franchise will be for you. I couldn't get with it all the way.
Yeah.
Which is probably why the rest of the ratings are going to be the exact same. So.
Well, you never know. We're going to talk about that. We'll see. Anyway, on to Scream 3. Scream 3 came out in 2000. Mm-hmm. This basically takes place... I think she's out of college in this one. Right? She's out of college in this one? I think so.
She's alone.
She's alone. So basically, so basically in the third movie, she's basically living on her own with so many locks in on her fucking door and so many alarm systems. Basically paranoid to the max. She basically has a guard dog now. I'm guessing that's her emotional support animal or service dog. I don't really know for certain. Mm-hmm. They don't really specify. I'm just going to assume that, especially because she's been through a lot of trauma. I would not be surprised. She also lives alone. She basically is a crisis center helpline person. Mm-hmm. And she basically does not want anything to do with anything going on, which...
Kudos.
Kudos to her. It's reasonable. I would not be surprised, especially after all the shit she's been through. So, basically, it's basically about the movie being filmed, like, a few years later, based on another one. Mm-hmm. So, a movie's basically being made about another one of the stories and stuff like that, another one of the franchises. And Sydney ends up getting another call from you-know-who wants to find out what the scary movie is. And she's basically traumatized to the fucking max. Not surprised. And Gail and Dewey basically also kind of had a falling out. So they're kind of like broken up a bit. Again. And then because of that, Sydney is basically, when she finds out the Ghostface killer is back again, she's trying to figure out, okay, how the fuck do we stop him again? And why does he keep coming back?
Why does he keep
coming back? Even though it's different people every time, but you get the point. Why does everyone want to keep trying to go after this one fucking girl? I genuinely don't understand. What is appealing about her friends?
One fucking girl. Go kill other people.
Like, I don't understand why people are so invested in Sydney. Like, not as a character.
People were on Billy's dick. Like, come on.
Like, really? Like, what's with people being on Billy Loomis's fucking dick?
I don't know.
It genuinely surprises me that this many people have. Anyway, because the Ghostface killer keeps happening, and apparently they also bring up, oh, who guessed it? Sydney's mom again. And then we find out that Sydney's mom was a fucking movie star. And
this is where it starts getting into fanfic levels of territory for me.
But, like, here's the other thing. Like, apparently she had a whole other double life. And the reason that so many people were going after her, like, were getting on, like, Sydney's mom's case, was because basically this is when people started to realize she's a fucking player. So, which I can kind of get that. Especially because she was in fucking Hollywood. Who knew? But yeah, so they're basically
trying. The reason why is because she got essayed, and then she had a kid, and she never wanted to mention it, so she left Hollywood to go be back with her
husband and her other kid.
So
yeah, so basically,
horrible things that is very relevant nowadays.
Yeah,
but yeah,
Sydney basically has a brother that she did not know about, and oh, guess what? Her brother wants to get revenge on her because apparently their mom went to go be Sydney's mom and not his mom. Oh my goodness.
So many mommy issues.
This man has mommy issues. A son with mommy issues. Wow.
Isn't that like... It's like half of the motivations.
Oh my goodness.
I have mommy issues. I have daddy issues. I've got... stupid brain.
Stupid brain.
Like,
Parental issues.
Parental issues. I'm doing this to avenge my son. I'm doing this to avenge my mom. I'm doing this to avenge my...
Why does that have to involve Billy Loomis?
I'm doing this to avenge my dog. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, basically, Sydney is coming to terms with the fact that her mom basically had another life separate from her and her father. Mm-hmm. And I will admit, this is probably where the lure for Sydney specifically started to get a lot more interesting, in my opinion. I thought the lure for this was pretty good. We at least get to find out what the fuck happened and why the heck she left. Because they don't really explain it for the first two movies. So the fact that we actually get a little bit more lure out of it was like the best thing ever. Like, thank you. We finally get to figure out why the fuck this keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a good thing, and I'm happy about that. So that's basically the gist of the third movie. Minus the fact that we still are having to come to terms with the fact that Sydney needs therapy. Other than that, I feel like this movie's pretty solid. Still not as good as the first one, but I will say this one, in my opinion, is better than the second movie. I feel like this should have been the second movie, and then they should have done the second movie. Do we agree, yes or no?
I have no idea. It just seems like that this director clearly wanted to continue it with some really fucking odd plot choices that I just cannot care less of a shit about. I mean, I don't know. It was just like, man, it was kind of cool when it was like, just about this one girl's life and trauma, but then they had to throw the fanfiction at it, and I'm just like,
we don't need the fanfiction.
I don't need that. I think I'm gonna give them all like.
Well, we're gonna get.
I know, but I pretty much am like on my opinion that I'm probably gonna give it like.
Well, let's rate the
3.
Let's write the third one. So, for me, I will say this: this one is definitely better than the second one. Is it as good as the first one? No. It's definitely better than the last movie. Mainly because they should have expanded on the lore, in my opinion, within the second movie, and then I feel like they could have like gone into something else with the third, or like they could have made the third of Sydney coming to terms with everything, but they kind of did that, but I feel like they could have done it a little bit better. But that's just me. This kind of concludes her arc, in quotes, in the third movie, but at the same time, I feel like they could have done a little bit more. It's one of those things where it comes to a semi-conclusion, but I feel like they could improve on it. It's still a good conclusion to her arc, in quotes. But I feel like it's kind of like an open-ended conclusion, to where you can kind of like decide if you think she needs to be improving more than what she already got. So for that, I would probably give the third a 7.5 out of 10. It's a little bit better than the second movie, but not as good as the first. I do feel like if we had to round these out as a trilogy, the first one's definitely the best, and then the third, and then the second. But that's just me.
I'm gonna give the third one a 5.
You give it a 5?
Mm-hmm.
I can understand that. I know it gets a bit repetitive after a while, but that's because Sydney basically going through shit, or at least the protagonist kind of going through shit, is kind of the point of these movies, in a sense. Semi makes sense, but that's just me. Alright, anything else to say before we talk about the fourth?
No.
Alright, so Scream 4 came out 2011. This came out 10 years after the third one, which I think is fucking insane.
Crazy times.
And Jay kind of mentioned this before when we were, like, explaining stuff, but Scream 4 is kind of an outlier, a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, now that you mentioned it, I can kind of see that.
Nothing really to do with any of them.
It kind of, like, well, it kind of has something to do with it, but they don't really, like, expand on it. It's just kind of like a semi-standalone. It's like if they tried to do, like, a spin-off, but they kind of failed at it. Or they did, like, it's weird. It's like it's the weird middle child. They did an homage, I guess, to the other ones, which I don't really know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like, so basically in the fourth movie, Sydney basically goes to live with her aunt and her niece for a little bit, finds out about the murders. Her niece is basically trying to, like, not get killed by Ghostface. Sydney's basically trying to protect her aunt and her niece. And then you find out, oh shit, her niece is the fucking killer, along with one of her friends, one of Sydney's niece's friends, apparently are murdering each other, which I think is fucking crazy, to be honest. And I'm just...
See, this is what happens when you watch them all at the same time. It just kind of blends in for you. A little bit.
Jay.
It blends
you
in.
You do realize we didn't even watch them all, like, continuously.
But it blends in for me at this point. When you follow the same consistent plot, it just kind of blends in for me. That's... Which
I can understand, but that's not, like, every franchise. Not every franchise.
For this franchise.
Oh, just for this one in
yes. General. It's like, I get it. It's the only thing that you can follow, but, like, that's why I don't really recommend doing sequels sometimes.
But still, I like to do it because sometimes they do something different. You're never going to know until you finish it, which we will get into after this movie. But what did you think of Scream 4?
Because I barely remember it.
But yeah, because I can agree with you when you said this is kind of an outlier. We basically have an aunt and a niece who have never been talked about before or anything like that. And then they just happen to kind of run with it. Nothing's really explained about her mom. Nothing's really explained about anything else. It's just basically Ghostface being a killer. That's literally basically the gist of what this is. Mm-hmm. There's like no lore. Honestly, this could have never even been part of the franchise. And I will say that. They could have like literally not even included this in the franchise. Mm-hmm. And it still would have been better. I do have complaints about this movie for the fact that, besides the fact it's just Ghostface killing everybody, just to kill them without any kind of basic plot, I feel like kind of ruins the franchise a little bit. Sydney's still dealing with her trauma, but it's basically just kind of like, she's kind of like, I'm trying to think of the word, like, null, I guess?
She's nulled.
Like, not nulled, but I'm trying to think of the word, but like...
She's
just kind of like... No.
I don't know.
She's just kind of like... It's just kind of there. It's not like improved upon. They just kind of like... I feel like it's the producers being like, okay, what made the Scream movies good? Oh, Sydney's trauma. Let's make that a fucking movie.
Sure, let's make that a movie, I guess.
Oh, Ghostface killing everybody. Let's make that a movie. That's essentially what this is, if you think about it. And honestly, I will say this, out of the 6 movies, this, in my opinion, is the weakest of the 6. Like, it does nothing to add to it, it does nothing to take away from it, it's just kind of there. Can we agree on that, though? It's just kind of there?
I mean...
In a sense.
It goes away from anything having to do with, like...
the actual franchise.
It's just being decent to being fanfic. And
which is not
you
an
can have
issue.
fun with fanfic. It just isn't all that very interesting for me unless you're doing it, like...
differently.
Unless you're really funny with it. And I don't think this is really funny or memorable, let's just say.
It's basically like comparing what made the other movies good and just kind of running with it.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, I don't think really helps your case with this. So, in my opinion, this is the weakest of the 6. And I will put that at the very fucking bottom. Mm-hmm. And that's literally coming from someone that I'm not more lenient into shit sometimes, but at the same time I'm like, bruh.
You still have to be a good, enjoyable watch.
It's still a decent watch. Like, it's not bad, but I feel like it doesn't add to it. So, for that, basically, I would give 4 a 4.5 out of 10. It's just kind of there. Like, it's not bad, it's not good.
I give it a 5.
It's just kind of there.
I give it a 5.
So, I would recommend kind of skipping the 4th one. Unless you really like Ghostface just killing everybody, which I'm pretty sure there's people out there that do, then this is probably... I feel like this is skippable. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty much, I don't really have really much of a strong, like, outlook on it. Outside of the first one, so.
Which I get. I can understand it gets a bit much. But at least with the last 2 movies, we can kind of talk about it better.
Okay.
So, next one is basically Scream 2022. I don't know why they don't call it just Scream 5. I feel like they just should stop making movies where they don't include the 5.
I guess because this is like the real remake, I guess you could say.
But here's the thing, it's not really a remake. Like, here's the thing. So, I'm going to call it Scream 2022 just to kind of make it different from saying Scream. So, we're just going to call it Scream 2022. So, Scream 2022 is basically about Billy Loomis's daughter daughters. Billy Loomis's daughters. And they find out...
Well, only one of them's the daughter.
What about Tara?
The other one has that's a stepdad.
Oh, I thought they were both related.
No.
Okay, never mind then. So basically, Billy Loomis's daughter, which is Sam, finds out that her sister Tara ends up getting injured by the Ghostface killers, even though it's been years. Because this movie came out 2 years ago. So that's another 10 or 12 year gap from the 4th one. So this takes place years later, I'm assuming. So, Sam basically finds out about that. She goes to go protect her sister. And while that happens, they're basically trying to figure out, okay, how the fuck can we stop this killer from hurting anybody else? And because of the fact that Sam is basically the daughter of a serial killer, she tends to have these little, like, I guess you could say hallucinations of her dad. But here's the funny thing. Like, it's not like the last time we see her dad. It's basically like her dad almost at the same age when he started doing the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Kind of deal. So basically, she's trying to come to terms for the fact that her dad's basically a serial killer. She's trying not to follow in his footsteps, trying to protect her family, and trying to basically not associate with what her dad did. That's basically what the 5th movie's about. But the interesting thing is, Sydney's not even in this movie. Like, this movie and the sixth, Sydney's barely even in it. They kind of gotten to the point where it's like, okay, we don't need to keep doing this with Sydney's trauma. We need to leave her the fuck alone. Mm-hmm. It took 4 movies for them to do that. 4 movies for them to get over that. Which I still find crazy. But then again, I don't really know if this is considered a reboot. Because in my opinion, this doesn't really I don't feel like this is considered a reboot. This to me is kind of more like a semi-revival. Because you still have Sydney in it, but she doesn't really play as big of a role. And you kind of have like a new cast. But it's still the same kind of like deal. Basically, Sam's trying to come to terms with her dad basically being a killer. Mm-hmm. And trying to protect her sister. And basically trying to figure out what the fuck happened. And here's the other thing. She doesn't even have another parent to kind of lean on with this. It's basically her and her sister. For the whole thing. In a sense. Which, I like that we're getting a different perspective on this. But I still find it crazy that instead of like incorporating like an entirely new cast, they still kind of have like some of the characters from the original. I'm going to basically say 4 movies. From the original 4 movies, kind of helping the new people. Which I think I kind of like, though. I kind of like that they did that. What did you think? Do you like that they did that for the 5th movie?
I could barely focus on the 5th one because it bored me to shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious right now?
I didn't care for it. I really didn't.
What the hell, honey?
Like, even when they're like, oh shit, this character died. I didn't give a shit. At that point,
I thought it was interesting.
At that point, I was just like, man, it has to do some like whack shit to bring me back. I'm just like, man, I think it's kind of checked out at that point. I was just like, man, I was like, let's just be done so we could go on to the last movie, and just like, because it was boring. Even if you
didn't even attempt to like it at all. Like I didn't mind the 5th one.
I didn't care for it.
I feel like the 5th one.
It's the most boring one out of the franchise.
Really?
Yes.
The 5th was the more boring compared to the 4th one that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, because at least it's a standalone thing. At least it's not,
Fair point. But at the same time, I still feel like the 5th one is good. It kind of lives up to the first one, but not quite. They take a different approach with it, which I like.
Yeah, I believe those old actors. I believe those old actors could act. Like,
you don't feel like the new cast can act?
In this one, no.
Which I can also understand.
God damn. It's like the whole thing where they're just trying to bring up meta shit again. I'm just like, no, stop. Fucking act like actual people.
I will say this, though. The one thing I was surprised at with this, I never thought I'd see the day where this would actually happen, but they killed off Dewey. I was not expecting that at all. I thought at least the main 3 that were from the original trilogy / 4th movie, because of the way it's kind of a standalone. I'm surprised they actually had the balls to kill Dewey, which I was not expecting at all, first off. That basically was the one thing in the movie I was just genuinely surprised at. I was not expecting Dewey to fucking die. I'm not gonna lie to you. Were you expecting him to die? Because I wasn't.
Was I expecting him to die?
Yeah. Because I wasn't. That just threw me for a loop.
I didn't give a shit about what happened to him, to be honest.
Then again, you barely care about Dewey.
I barely cared about Dewey to begin with, so it didn't really matter to me.
Why do you not care about him at least a little?
Because he's a cop and he's a coward.
Okay, both valid reasons. Okay, I see your point. I still felt bad for Dewey. I liked his relationship with Sydney. I do think it's nice. I think it's like a nice little, like, wholesomeness, but at the same time, I get where you're coming from. He has his moments, but I don't think he deserved to fucking die. But in the way that he died, though, which was honestly insane, I will say this. The 5th and the 6th movie take the deaths to, like, a whole nother level. They take the deaths to, like, a whole nother level, which I was not expecting at all. I could not stop gasping every time, like, a super crazy death happened. Especially, Dewey's death was bad. His, like, happened, like, so bad. I was like, oh my gosh. This poor man. Like... I will say this, though. I do feel like, compared to Sydney with her trauma, I feel like Sam's trauma is more rooted, like, in her stuff. Unlike Sydney for having hallucinations with her mom, which she only had, I think, through the 3rd movie, like, once or twice. She never had hallucinations about her mom in the other movies, except the 3rd one, which I was surprised they didn't do that. Sam kind of had a lot more hallucinations about her dad, which I thought was kind of crazy. But then again, it's trauma. Everyone's got fucking trauma at this point.
She has schizo.
She definitely has schizo. I can definitely tell she's got schizophrenia of some degree because she's taking meds like a bunch and she keeps seeing her fucking dead father, so that's not a good thing. I don't think those meds are working. Like, they're really not working if she keeps seeing her dad. Especially at the rate the dad keeps showing.
Meds aren't working. Take these meds.
Yeah. But compared to the other movies, I do feel like this is a good, like, not really a reboot. I kind of consider it like a semi-revival. Like, they're still doing stuff from the other movies, but they're kind of adding a new twist to it. So I will consider that a semi-revival kind of thing. It's basically like the more modern version of the Scream franchise, but at the same time, not going as, like, camp. It's still campy, but it kind of adds, like, a different, like, modern feel to it, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I did like that approach, though. I think it was a nice approach, especially with how they portrayed stuff in this. Still not as good as the first one. But I will say it is a little bit better than the 3rd one. So, I would actually give this one a 7.5. I actually think this was honestly one of the better ones that they did. I personally liked this. I liked the new approach on it. But still, nothing's really going to top the first one. This was cutting it close, though, in my opinion. This, to me, was cutting it a little bit close.
I give it a 4.
I still can't believe you gave this a 4!
I found it boring and just...
Was it really that boring?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah, I was like, for the first, like, half of it, I was, like, checked out, like, really bad. I was just like, man, I cannot.
Oh my gosh. You cray-cray.
I am cray-cray. You know what I needed?
What?
You know what's a perfect way to watch these movies, like, marathon them?
Drunk.
Which
I'm surprised you fucking didn't do. That's the one thing I was surprised at. Every time we do these franchise movies, you are semi-drunk.
I don't have my beer. I wish I did, but you know what?
Why didn't you get a beer?
I wish I did. I have no money. I am broke. Anyway, on to the next one.
All right. And then we're on to the last one that they currently have out. And then we'll talk about everything else as a whole and all that other good stuff. So, Scream 6 came out last year. I still can't believe...
This is the one everyone was talking about.
This was the movie... Okay, seeing the trailer for this movie made me want to do the Scream franchise. This was the reason I wanted to do the Scream franchise, was this movie. So as soon as I found out that they made a 6th one, I'm like, fuck. Well, that's coming out. Let's fucking do the franchise. Let's go. And then Bean regretted it.
I mean, yeah, I kind of do a little bit.
But we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So, 6th movie basically takes place... Because the 5th one kind of took place in high school. This one takes place for them in college. Well, college for Tara. Sam basically is just an adult, kind of just... She's basically an adult throughout this whole thing, while the younger sister is basically, like, the one aging through the series like Sydney was. So, It's kind of like they decided to do two halves of a whole for Sydney. Instead of having one protagonist, they kind of did two with Sam and her sister, which I kind of like, though, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, basically, Tara's going to college. Sam ends up following her to college, along with a few of her friends. Basically, the core four, as they like to call themselves in this, which I still can't believe that was even a fucking thing, but I kind of dig it, though. I dig it a little bit. But the killer is basically happening again, but instead of it being in Woodsboro, it's in fucking New York City, where there's so many fucking people. That's one thing I will say. They changed it up quite a bit in this one, compared to everything else. And here's the other thing. Sydney's not even in this movie. She was only like a little bit in the fifth one, but she's like non-existent in this movie. I think they were kind of just like, okay, we've talked about Sydney enough. She's had 5 movies to kind of been the star of it. We're just going to write her out. So basically, it just says she's basically protecting her kids, which I'm surprised Sydney has fucking kids now. That's honestly crazy. What the fuck? Anyway. So basically, Sam is trying to figure out who the heck is murdering everybody on campus and in the city. Tara's trying to basically live her life while Sam's basically being overprotective big sister. Well, Mama Bear's sister kind of deal, but you know what I mean. And they're basically trying to figure out what the fuck is happening to all the people. Why are there so many Ghostface killers? And all that bullshit. So what did you think of this one, honey? Because this was the last one we watched. What did you think of it?
A little better.
You liked this one over the fifth one?
Than the fifth one. I don't think it's anything good. Like, I was just like going through the motions, you know, just okay, there's gonna be like, you know, a ghost face. And then he's gonna go kill people. And then the old cast is getting old, so kill off the old cast so you can get the newcomers in. And yeah, just twist ending like they always do.
Which we will talk about in a minute.
And that was it. But none of it really surprised me or was much to pull me into where I cared. I was just kind of just watching the movie like, you know, I like anything. I like the effects in these movies. So like the practical effects that they use for like the gore and stuff like that.
Yeah. I will say this though, compared to the other movies,
I find it ridiculous of how many times people will just like write off a stab wound. At this point, I'm just like, man.
This movie was so
stab
over the...
wounds are unrecoverable at this point.
Like, literally, the murders in this movie were so intense. Out of all the movies, this one had the most grotesque ones I've ever fucking seen. Out of every single one of these movies. Most of them, they just do, but This one they all kept stabbing over and over again.
Stabby.
They literally were making them Swiss cheese. That's how crazy this was. They kept making them Swiss cheese. I feel bad for the people that had to use all that fake blood. Oh my gosh.
So much Swiss cheese.
Like, literally, these killers, I don't know if it's just because they were trying to avenge the son from the last movie. So here's the funny thing. Sam's boyfriend was the fucking killer in the 5th movie. So guess who's the killers in the 6th movie? Apparently it's his fucking family.
Everyone's just like, you know what? Everyone is fucking inspired by Ghostface. Like
even a fucking cop and his 2 kids.
Like, why?
Which was insanity.
I don't get it. Like, the whole point of, like, Ghostface for me, what made it okay was because it was just when no motive. It was just 2 crazy bitches.
2 crazy guys being crazy over a girl.
Yeah, who were, like, who got blue balled. That's basically what the motivation was, and I'm like, cool, I can get behind that, but not this whole conspiracy fanfic bullshit. Like, I don't care.
And I can understand that. Like,
I don't care.
I can see the appeal.
It. I'm just like, dude, this is stupid, and not in a good way. I was just kind of like, man, I wish good luck for people who do care. Bless their souls.
I still care.
I don't.
But I will say this. This one was really good. I do think it was a lot more brutal than the other movies. I will tell you that for a fact. Way more brutal than the other ones.
How they keep living through it?
Huh?
Not if they keep living through it. Like, I will face the brutality if people die from brutality. Not if people live through brutality like that.
Yeah, also the fact that Gail fucking died again. Gail fucking died. This poor woman has gotten her face punched so many times, gotten stabbed so many times. Same with Sydney. Those two them and Dewey all became punching bags through like the third through the fourth movie. They were like all punching bags. And then Gail died in this one, which this makes me wonder some shit, but I'll talk about that after we talk about this one. So this honestly just kind of was just crazy in and of itself. Basically find out that the cop and his family, the son apparently that died in the last movie was a really big fan of all the Ghostface shit. So he basically wanted to start collecting all the shit from all the previous Ghostfaces and leave their masks everywhere like a fucking Easter egg hunt. And it's like, bruh, what the fuck? Like, and the parents were, then the dad and the kids were so upset that their brother died that they basically were like, let's frame Sam to be the killer so we can all go free. Just because she has a serial killer dad doesn't mean you guys have to blame her for everything. She's not even the one that fucking did shit.
That's where it got stupid for me.
I will say that. It did get stupid with that. Like, they were all basically trying to frame her. And I'm like, y'all fucking cray-cray. Also, this is already an hour long.
I know. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so tired.
You always tired.
I know, but I want to sleep.
We're gonna go to bed. Anyway.
So, I didn't really I don't know. I just was like, man, it would have been so much better if I was drunk during this shit.
Next, note to self, get being drunk next time we do franchise video.
Next franchise, which is going to be next franchise, so.
We'll talk about that at the very end.
Get me drunk.
We'll talk about that at the very end.
Yes.
But anyway.
I give this a 5.
You give this a 5?
Yes.
Okay. This was still pretty good. Like I said before, not as good as the first one. But I will admit, I feel like this one and the 5th one are still pretty good, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Anyway. I give the 6th one a 6 out of 10. It's pretty decent. I will admit, I was pretty surprised at all the killings that Ghostface did in this one. It made me kind of like, this man literally used a shotgun. I never thought I'd see the day where Ghostface would have a fucking shotgun. Good lord.
I think that's why people went to go see it, because Ghostface had a fucking shotgun.
He's only had knives. This is the first time he actually had a fucking shotgun. That means he means business. Normally people
said he had a shotgun, and then he said, fuck movies, and everyone creamed their pants. I'm like, is that why y'all liked it?
Well, then again, apparently a lot of people find not the people inside the Ghostface costume sexy, but just the character depiction of him sexy, which I'm like...
Some people's like...
What?
Some people... Yeah, but some people's like... like raised for even campy horror is just...
I will say this, though. I will only understand the appeal of Ghostface being quote-unquote sexy if it was the same person doing it. Not these random fucking people. Not if they keep changing the fucking protagonist. No, I'm not gonna
I guess the whole point of Ghostface being quote-unquote sexy is anybody can be Ghostface.
Like, nobody...
That's not the fucking point, honey.
But I don't know. The concept of it, I
get the concept, though, but
okay, we're getting off topic.
Anyway, enough talking about sexy ghost face. Whatever. I will say this before we rate the franchise as a whole and our ratings of which is the best to the worst. There is going to be a 7th one. It is confirmed that we're getting a 7th Scream movie. Mm-hmm. It says production is technically, happening, or it's currently in development, I guess. It says it's probably going to come out late 2025, early 2026. Yes, we will review it when it comes out, whenever that does happen, depending on when that happens. So we are going to be talking, there is going to be a Scream 7, and we are going to talk about it. I have some theories about Scream 7. So here's my thing, and you can, okay, look, since they already killed Dewey, and they already killed Gail, does this mean they're going to actually bring Sydney back to kill her? I want to know your opinion. Do you think they'll actually pull that? Because I feel like that they're probably going to do that. If they killed off the other two,
sure,
they're probably going to do that.
Sure. I have no fucking idea. Sure, I guess. I don't care.
I am curious to see what they're going to do with this.
I do not.
But I will say, if they're making a 7th, that means they have to kill off Sydney at this point. Even though she's basically the reason the whole series fucking started, but at the same time, bro, the whole cast is literally, she's the only one of the original cast left. That's insane. So that means they have to get rid of her at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm kind of curious to see how she's going to go,
never bring her back. Never.
Or they never bring her back, and apparently they just go on with everything like it never fucking happened, but that's too fucking easy. I don't think they're going to fucking do that. It also is apparent that they're apparently switching. They might see a change in directors, which I find interesting. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be like. But we'll see about that when it comes out. But anyway, so let's give a best to worst, and then we'll rate the franchise as a whole. So for me, the best, the worst to the best. 4th is the worst, then the 2nd, then the 3rd. Actually, wait, no. 4th, 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 6, 1. That's what I would give it. That's my worst to best. What about you? Worst to best. Go. Hello?
5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's funny. 5, 4, 6, 3, 2, 1. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's rate the franchise as a whole. What do you think of the whole franchise of the Scream franchise? What do you think? I want to know your opinion first.
It was a cool gimmick, and the gimmick wore off very, very quickly for me. And I wish I could have experienced these, less sober, so I get campy horror and stuff like
Minus the fact that you weren't drunk, honey.
Yeah, but I wasn't drawn to anything that was happening really much either, besides them making gimmicks happen. So 6 out of 10
for the whole franchise.
Yep.
I'm not surprised, especially with the way you like the first one. So I am not surprised. Mm-hmm. For me, I would pretty much give the whole franchise probably like a 7.5, honestly. I feel like if you're going to do this series, you gotta be able to do something new for each movie while still being consistent. At least to the point where you don't have to worry about stuff getting too old. You gotta be able to be consistent with it, but not, overdo it. Right? What would have made it better for you? Give me your honest opinion. And there goes Jay checking the blankies, because they're in the laundry. Well, what would have made it better for you? Because for me, the thing that would have made it better for me, at least, honestly, they could have, dove into some of the other characters, or they could have, not focused so hard on Sydney's mom for like the 3, and then they bring up Billy Loomis. I thought that was kind of a loop, but still an interesting take. They could have actually focused on her getting therapy.
It could have ended it after 3 movies.
I'm surprised they had more than 3.
I don't get it.
Or at least if they were going to do more than 3, they could have, like, rebooted it.
I don't get it, but it was the 2010s, and we could have rebooted anything if we wanted. Also, these are...
That's because they were in the...
And I want to go sleep.
I get it. We're almost done.
It's 3 o'clock.
I need to go to bed.
We're going to bed in a minute. Just let's finish this. But yeah, definitely, I will say this. This was a fun franchise to do. I'm glad we finally got to watch this. After years of hearing so many people telling me, why have you never watched Scream? Now I can tell people I fucking watched Scream. Right, honey?
Yeah, and then they're going to realize, well, why don't you watch this? Why don't you watch that? Everyone's going to say, like, why haven't you watched this specific movie or franchise? And I'm going to be like, because maybe I don't want to.
Anyway, so, yeah, that's basically us reviewing the Scream franchise. We are doing one more franchise video for this Halloween Spectacular, and then we're basically going to be doing nothing longer than trilogies.
Yeah.
For the rest of it, because this already took, this took an entire month to fucking do. But then again, we literally did it, 2 a week. Because last time we did, a bunch in a day, Bean was like, let's not do that again. So to respect his wishes, we did 2 a week.
Yep.
Because that's the only way I was able to get Jay to agree to fucking do this. But then again, we'll see how us watching the next franchise video will go. But anyway... Thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys for the next franchise video and the next Halloween Spectacular. And as always, I'm Mari.
I'm Jay.
And we're out. Bye, guys.